Things are much quieter tonight in Gainesville as crowds and cops have dispersed.
In the last 2 hours, we've learned there were 2 arrests and 5 minor injuries during today's demonstrations. Richard Spencer supporters were escorted by officers through a crowd of protesters as they left the speech. Protests were peaceful. One woman held a sign that read "Best Friends Forever." You can see it as a picture of Spencer and Hitler. Our team has been covering every aspect of Spencer's speech from before, during, and after.
And we start with Channel 4's Eric Avignon live on the University of Florida campus. Eric, you were one of the first reporters to get to the scene of where a gunshot was fired, and it's about a mile from the venue where Spencer held his talk. We understand that shot was aimed at a protester. Who's saying that?
Yes, that is being said by the victim's friend. The friend said that he was right across the street. He said he heard the gunshot. Now, he is telling us that right before the shots, that one shot was fired, the gunman, he says, raised his hand, basically doing a Nazi salute, and then yelling out some type of a Nazi slogan. And again, this was right before the shots were fired. You're looking at the aftermath of gun violence just blocks from the UF campus. Gainesville police say it happened nearly an hour after protest crowds dispersed following the controversial speaking event by white nationalist Richard Spencer. A witness who was also a friend of the victims was across the street and heard the gunshot.
And then as we're across the street, we hear this loud blap, like a 38 or something going off.
Police say the incident started as a verbal confrontation outside this CVS store, then escalated.
The person in the car followed the group down to the bus stop here. The person reportedly got out of the vehicle, fired a shot, got back in the vehicle and fled.
Fortunately, no one was hit. Officers located a shell casing and a bullet hole in this wall. While police are not saying if the incident was related to the protest on campus, the witness, who is a protester, is not holding back about his beliefs.
It's definitely 100% related to it.
We are many! We are many! You are few! You are few!
Prior to the shots fired incident, this was the scene on campus as thousands of protesters took to the streets. The protest was largely peaceful.
I could have never imagined this happening either, and we don't want Gainesville, obviously, to become another Charlottesville. And I'm here because we have to stand strong and with energy against bigotry in all its forms.
So I feel like it's my job to use my voice for the people that can't be here out of fear.
By screaming their heads off and nearly drowning Mr. Spencer out, fortunately I was able to hear him with a speaker system. They showed their colors on national TV. They want to drown everybody else out.
Now, there were some moments when police had to keep protesters from Spencer's supporters, and I got to tell you that the response was very quick. Now, as for that shooting incident, we do not have a description of the suspect. However, we have been told by police that he was last seen in a silver Jeep. Reporting live on the campus of UF, Eric Avignon, Channel 4, the local station.
And Eric, I understand we just heard from a Spencer supporter that you spoke with today. What was his message he was trying to get out?
That's a good question because when we met him, basically I met him after overhearing a conversation that he was having with protesters. And so when we spoke to him, it seemed like his message was all across the board. But then there were some things that he said about African Americans that, most people would probably consider to be a bit offensive. So at that point, we were just trying to wrap that conversation up. But we will have some more sound from him coming up at 11. Reporting live, Eric Avignon, Channel 4, back to you.
Thanks, Eric. And while we saw many people opposing Spencer, we did see some supporters like this man who stood alone wearing a shirt covered with swastikas and a slew of protesters there behind him. And this image shows a Richard Spencer supporter clashing with police.
Elsewhere, we saw a much different message. I want to show you now an image that echoes the feelings of many at the University of Florida. A sign reading, "Love, not hate," and this was posted outside a sorority house. The president of the University of Florida said that the school is required by law to allow Spencer to speak on campus. Kent Fox still advised students and staff to stay away from today's event, saying that Spencer's ideals are not part of Gator Nation.
I think in reality, his words have absolutely no value. They're not based on education, they're not based on scholarship, and they are contrary to everything this university and all of our great public research universities have at the core, which is that we welcome people from all races, all ethnicities, even indeed all nationalities, and certainly all religions and all skin color.
Mr. Fox said that he hopes the event will end up bringing the community closer together and that it can be used to create a dialogue about race. The university spent an estimated $600,000 on security for Spencer's appearance.
Tarek Miner has been anchoring our coverage from Gainesville all day today. He's now showing us the reception that Spencer received inside the Phillips Center today.
There were hundreds of people here at the University of Florida campus, both supporting Richard Spencer and protesting him. But when he delivered his speech, he was met with some very vocal opposition. Richard Spencer didn't exactly get a warm reception inside the Phillips Center on the UF campus this afternoon for a speech that's been the topic of controversy for 2 months. Most of the crowd opposing him and trying to drown him out with chants like "Let's go Gators" and "Go home Nazis."
It was an entire, hour and a half, 2 hours, and no one got thrown out. So I think he actually got exactly what he wanted. I'm pretty sure this entire ordeal was calculated. I think we did a great job at sort of, shutting him down.
Outside the venue, law enforcement officers could be seen virtually everywhere. Agencies from all around the state, including Northeast Florida, joined the force here after the governor declared a state of emergency. That presence somewhat of a comfort to those here.
I think given the history that Richard Spencer has in invoking disruption wherever he goes, we have to be safe. And I'm very appreciative to the police force and, the folks that are coming in to protect us.
In the hours leading up to the speech, protesters made their voices heard in the streets. People sharing some of Spencer's beliefs were also there, sometimes debating those who disagreed with them and explaining their viewpoints.
I was just saying I think diversity harms everybody involved. So in other words, I'm not only coming at this from the point of view of saying diversity hurts white people. I think it hurts everybody. I grew up in Chicago. I saw the damage that diversity did to the black community.
When Richard Spencer left the university, he blamed the University of Florida. He said that the university failed him because the crowd was so disruptive. In Gainesville, I'm Tarek Miner, Channel 4, the local station.